line of company.
Tonight on CTV3 News, murder in Sugar City as a well-known jockey is inflicted several stab wounds by two of his nephews. Chinese businessman accused of hitting a minor is charged with common assault. Regional heads of state from 7 Central American regions meet in Belize for the 57th Summit of the Heads of State and Government of the Central American Integration System. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Tuesday, June 27th, 2023.
Special guest in the audience tonight, legendary record executive, Mr. Clive Davis.
My voice is gone. What? You start the show tonight. No talking back. I'm your mother.
There's a boy I know. He's the one I dream of.
What's your name again?
Whitney Elizabeth Houston. Wake up! It's on. It's on. Listen.
How will I know if he really loves me?
My dream. Sing what I want to sing. Be how I want to be.
I say a prayer with every heartbeat.
Reach as big an audience as I can.
Common criticism of you, your music isn't black enough.
Look, I don't know how to sing black, and I don't know how to sing white either. I know how to sing.
I might have just heard the greatest voice of her generation.
Maybe.
Maybe. It's got to have a hook.
The hook?
Yeah.
I'll give it a hook.
I wanted to show them something that wasn't an illusion. Something that was real. Something that they could see and touch.
Humans and dinosaurs can't coexist. We created an ecological disaster.
Ellie Sattler.
Alan Grant.
You didn't come out all this way just to catch up now, did you?
You coming or what?
That's another plane, right?
Not exactly.
Don't move.
evening with your news, also simulcast on Fiesta FM 106.7. I am Joanna Rodriguez. An Orange Walk family is tonight reeling from the vicious murder of their loved one, allegedly at the hands of the victim's own blood relatives. Reports reaching our newsroom suggest the incident happened inside the family's yard here in Orange Walk town, and after the calmness of the night took over, 47-year-old Anthony Deras Bartley, an employee of the Orange Walk Town Council and a well-known jockey, lay dead at the Northern Regional Hospital, and his nephews found themselves behind bars. Our news team visited the family at their home and filed the following report.
47-year-old Anthony Deras Bartley, a.k.a. Jackal, is dead tonight after two of his nephews viciously ended his life with a machete. The news of the well-known horse jockey's death spread like wildfire last night after the incident unfolded in this yard in Orange Walk town. While police are yet to reveal a motive for this latest homicide, we understand Deras Bartley had just ended his day's work and headed over to the Orange Walk People's Stadium as he did most evenings. There is where he was allegedly involved in a misunderstanding with two of his nephews. That verbal exchange escalated into an altercation, with Deras being chopped to the head. The 47-year-old, we are told, sought medical attention for his injury, then headed home. But death was waiting for him. You see, Deras lives in the same yard as his two nephews, and all indications are that when he arrived home, the argument between the three ensued once more. This led to another physical altercation, and that is how Deras Bartley received a chop wound to his left hand and a stab wound on the right foot and left lower back. While the 47-year-old was taken to the Northern Regional Hospital for treatment, he succumbed to his injuries around 7:30 last night. His co-workers at the Orange Walk Town Council received the devastating news early this morning.
This morning, and when I got to work, everybody was with sad faces. So I had to enlighten them and show and lead them the way that yes, it hurts, but life must continue regardless. It must continue. And as I mentioned before, we're going to miss this guy a lot because he was a very, very handy man. Wherever we placed him, he was very good in doing so.
Did you know him to have trouble with people?
Not to no extent as it's what had occurred, no? Not to the extent. Yes, I know he was a very good jockey too. He loved horses. I remember always when he have race, boy, you win, don't tell me you lose. And that's the first thing I approach him as I say, Boss, yes, today I win. Boss, no, I never win today. Because, man, we were close. All our guys were close together.
With years of service at the council, operations manager Omar Mendes and Mayor Ladrick Shepherd say Deras Bartley will be remembered as a hard-working individual and by far the best man on the job.
The guy's name is Anthony Deras, better known as Coolie, and we just call him other names, no? Nicknames. He was a very solid worker, very cooperative. At the moment he was assigned to street raking. This guy, Anthony, was a very key worker whenever we do manual paving. He's one of our strongest guys. We call him the fireman because he does take care of making sure that the tar is hot enough and he knows when it is able to be used. All our guys at the town hall, at the town council, we were shocked and we are saddened in what has occurred. It hurts, but we don't know exactly what really transpired.
He was Jackal, known as on the horse, but he was known as Anthony Barkley here at the Orange Walk Town Council. And again, some people might not know this gentleman, but he played an essential role at the Orange Walk Town Council as our fireman for the manual paving. You know, for a fact, I've always been talking about the manual paving and the work that this town council has taken the initiative of getting streets done ourselves. This gentleman, Anthony Barkley, better known as Jackal, was our fireman. He was in charge of making sure that the tar was hot enough so that the showman can get it out and it can be done the proper way. So, and it was only his job to take care of all these, like we consider it as the hot pots for the tar. And he did a superior job when it comes to that. This man, like I said, he mastered it. And we will surely miss him. He was a friendly person, a genuine guy. Doesn't like to talk a lot. You know, he has his own personal life. That's his life. But when it comes to the gentleman itself, I must say that he was one of our best employees that we lost. It's sad. It's gonna hurt us a lot because we were looking forward to many things with Anthony Barkley because and also when we went to different areas, for instance, we went to Dangriga, we went to we were going to Corozal to do some of these manual paving. He was right there with us to teach and so that everybody could learn his role because his role is very essential. Again, his role was to make sure the tar was hot enough so that they can be spread the proper way so we can get more. So it's a huge loss.
Apart from working at the council, Deras Bartley was also Shepard's childhood friend. They shared many moments as they took part in numerous horse racing events. When we visited the family today, they told us off camera that the cops are unable to ascertain the sequence of events that ended the life of Anthony Deras Bartley. As for the victim's common-law wife, she was at the police station the entire morning and most of the afternoon giving her statement. For his boss and childhood friend, Ladrick Shepard, he told us via Zoom that Jacul, the jockey, was an icon in the sport of horse racing for more than 30 years in Belize, and therefore his death saddens the hearts of many.
It's a very sad day. What transpired yesterday with the last of Anthony Barkley, better known as Jacul or Cooliman. That's his nickname around the streets. Let me go back a little more. This gentleman, not knowing him as a jockey, but he also works for the Region Jockton Council, but I'll get to that part. I basically grew up in the same neighborhood along with him, so he a little older than me. I'm 44. I know he's about somewhere between 47 and 48 years old, or 49. We both went to San Francisco school together, attended San Francisco school. Anthony Barkley went in a different aspect. I went to in my fields. We ended up being a great jockey. I've always, and everybody knows, I'm the only announcer that announced horse racing in the entire country of Belize. I've seen Jacul from a young age riding horse, and he was one of the best. We just gave him an award, and I would probably consider that picture. We gave him an award of being one of the oldest jockeys, still riding up to now. We lost one of our jockeys, Lehman Chrysalit, a couple of years ago. He was another one. There is also, Orange Walk has a lot of excellent young jockeys, but he was one of those guys that mentor most of these jockeys to where they are right now. It's a huge loss now in the aspect of that. So I've mentioned it to some of the people are calling me because they're well aware of how I'm in charge of the horse racing in Orange Walk right now. People are asking me what really transpired of what happened. It's so sad. It's so sad, the incident.
47-year-old Anthony Deras Bartley was the father of 3 girls, ages 7, 10, and 16. Elmer Cornejo, CTV3 News.
CTV3 News understands that last night the nephews of the victim, identified as Myron and Aaron Betancourt, handed themselves over to police. They are expected to be charged soon. A business owner from the community of San Jose here in the Orange Walk district was today charged with common assault after he was accused of hitting a young boy on the head over the weekend. On Monday's newscast, we brought you the pleas for justice of a single mother after her 11-year-old son was hit in the head and accused of stealing by a local business owner in the community of San Jose here in Orange Walk. The incident, as we reported, played out on Saturday afternoon as 11-year-old Anthony Rodriguez was along with his football team at the local library watching a movie. While at the movie, Anthony decided to go to the local grocery store, which was just across the street. The young boy purchased a bag of chips and a sweet and returned to the library for the movie. A few minutes later, Anthony was approached by the store owner, who proceeded to accuse him of stealing while hitting him in the head. Anthony's mother, Indira Rodriguez, filed official police report against the store owner, identified as Asian national De Zeng Zhu, who today was formally arrested and charged with 1 count of common assault. Zhu is expected to appear before the Orange Walk magistrate later this week. Yesterday, we told you about a fight that transpired in San Antonio Village in the Corozal district. As we reported, the parties involved are all family members, namely Calvin Gilhari, the chairman of the village, and his wife, and Rodney Gilhari, who all live just a stone's throw away from each other at the very entrance of the village. But everything took a wrong turn on Saturday when 40-year-old Rodney Gilhari was injured, allegedly with a broken beer bottle. After the piece aired last night, our newsroom was contacted via email by the treasurer of the village council, who has the collective agreement of the 6 councillors. In the letter, the councillors denounced the actions of the chairman and even state that he should have acted with better judgment and reacted differently. The councillors further accused the chairman of having developed a violent character. The letter further states that the council has decided to stand with the family of Rodney Gilhari in this matter and will have a meeting to decide whether to implement the powers of the Village Council Act in Chapter 3, Section 9G. CTV3 News will keep following this incident and bring you the details as they unfold. Regional heads of state from 7 Central American regions, including Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Panama, and Dominican Republic, are currently in Plasencia for the 57th Summit of the Heads of State and Government of the Central American Integration System, Sika. This morning was the official opening ceremony, and as the chair of the summit, Prime Minister John Briceño delivered a welcome address where he spoke on several matters affecting the region, starting with Belize's tenure as chairman of Sika, which was handed over by the Dominican Republic 6 months ago.
6 months ago, in a ceremony much like this one, we inherited the presidency of Sika from the Dominican Republic, where President Abinader and his team set us on a course to rebuild our movement. In many ways, our work is predetermined by global developments, which always end up as spin-off crises or something that exacerbates existing crises in our region. Indeed, we must always hold as sacrosanct the longevity and sustainability of this movement, which we believe is an indispensable part of our region's enhancement. And speaking of these global developments or challenges, Belize's tenure as President pro tempore was a continuation of challenges faced by our predecessor. The ongoing war in Ukraine, the consequential effects of geopolitical disturbances on our fragile economic recovery efforts, the concerns of increasing food and energy costs in a region already marred by growing inequality, poverty, and food insecurity, the constant exodus of our citizens heading north in search of better economic opportunities, the ever-present existential threat of climate change, and indigenous to our own growth and development efforts, we spotlighted closer and lasting relations between our 2 sub-regions, CARICOM and Sika. For sure, we must add to this our fidelity to strengthening our regional integration, our commitment to the rule of law, to multilateralism, to peace, democracy, and to the development of our people. Restoring confidence in Sika demands strong institutions to support the resilient societies we are building. Recognizing this, the Dominican Republic had earlier launched an agenda on the reflection process of Sika, along with emerging issues related to its governance. Having experienced the institutional challenges, we embraced and carried forward the outcomes of this reflection process. We advanced on several core components comprising our reflection agenda on matters such as completion of an agenda for institutional strengthening and legal security, consolidation of the proposed mechanism for automatic financing of the regional institutions of Sika, effective resourcing of our regional institutions, something that is the litmus test of our commitment to regionalism.
Prime Minister Briceño also highlighted the strides of regional partners as it relates to the technological transformation brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020.
COVID-19 accelerated the digital footprint of countries and organizations alike and forced us to become experts in the virtual platform. We must not stop here, but utilize a digital framework to enhance this form of government. One such example of the usefulness of the digital framework is the introduction of an electronic signature. Transitioning to electronic signature requires synchronizing recognition of electronic signatures at the national level. Such an exercise began in 2020 and concluded in this year, in March, with the approval of the adoption and recognition of electronic signatures in Sika. A start in the right direction, but really it is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to full and complete digitization of our work in this technology and digital transformation. We made additional institutional advancements in other areas such as streamlining regional policy development across regional institutions, progress on filling the vacant post of the head of the Technical Secretariat of the Council of Women Ministers of Sika, and the Executive Secretary of the Regional Committee on Hydraulic Resources. It is our turn to lead the latter institution, and we are happy to note the selection process has ended and our national will soon be taking up her post as Executive Director of CRRH. Picking up the pace on these activities, and in some cases, resumption of old practices, assist with returning to normalcy.
In the area of climate change, Prime Minister Briceño highlighted some of the efforts by Belize to combat this global issue.
On the all-important topic of climate change, recently, the experts have warned about the possibility of a super El Nino this year. This puts us on high alert of another round of drought all the way through the first quarter of 2024. Yet another manifestation of the consequential effects of global warming in our region. During Belize's PPT, the Ministry of Sustainable Development labored extensively with a team at the Central American Commission for Environment and Development, the CCAD. And I must pause to recognize the people in the CCAD because in my previous life, I was the Minister of Environment for 9 years, and I spent 9 years working on these teams in the region. And whilst we have been moving forward, the same issues we're facing back then, we're still facing today. And more than ever, we have to speak as a region, along with our CARICOM partners, to ensure that the developed countries, who are the countries that created these problems, that they have a legal and a moral responsibility to assist us to build our resiliency against these changes that we're facing with climate change. But we need to keep the spotlight, as I said earlier, on climate change, environment, biodiversity conservation, along with the institutional strengthening of CCAD. Mindful of the desire to promote deeper interregional cooperation between the subregions of CARICOM and Sika, a focused and pragmatic agenda was pursued. This included exploring the possibility of enhancing our bargaining power at international fora on climate financing, brokering a regional position on a lost and damaged fund, advancing the revised regional framework of achieving development resilience to climate change, promoting the development of a seagrass management strategy, as well as biodiversity, climate change, marine litter, and forest fire management action plans. To advance cooperation between the two subregions, an interinstitutional working group of CCAD and the 5 Cs in Belize was established. Through support from Sika member states, Belize is on its way to becoming one of several hosts for a regional climate action transparency hub, consolidating its position as a leader on climate change issues. Belize capitalized on its tenure as PPT with a full week of initiatives based on the theme of restoration, extending its reach beyond the immediate Sika region.
Forming part of both Sika and CARICOM, Prime Minister Briceño also spoke of Belize's efforts to foster collaboration between the two for the benefit of the region on a whole.
On closer inter-regional cooperation between Sika and CARICOM, a matter we hold close to our hearts. We see it as our charge to bridge the mostly cultural, language, size, and other superficial divides. During our term as chair of CARICOM in 2022, and in deference to the changing international order, we simply had to highlight renewal of relations between Sika and CARICOM. We sought to maintain the momentum through technical and ministerial engagements between CARICOM and Sika in the diverse fields of work. As recently as yesterday, both sub-regions participated in a dialogue on trade and investment matters between Sika, CARICOM ministers of foreign affairs and foreign trade. These are prime areas for early and mutually beneficial partnerships. We cannot lose the early ground we have gained by coming together.
In a symbolic handing over of the Sika flag to Vice President Felix Ulloa Jr. of El Salvador, Prime Minister Honorable John Briceño officially transferred the pro tempore presidency of Sika to El Salvador. As part of the 57th Summit of the Heads of State and Government of Sika, the FAO and Sika also signed an unprecedented agreement to promote the dry corridor in Central America. The initiative aims to expand investments and enhance solutions to support the countries of this sub-region in the transformation of agriculture to adapt to climate change and improve food security. According to a release issued by Sika, when speaking about the agreement, FAO Assistant Director General and Regional Representative for Latin America and the Caribbean, Mario Lubitkin, stressed the importance of organizations such as FAO being able to work in coordination with member states and thus work together to address the impact that hunger, malnutrition, and poverty have caused in nations. In addition, the FAO Assistant Director General stressed that, quote, food security and nutrition have been consolidated as central axes in the development agendas of all regions of the world, with notable actions that demand us to promote greater joint cooperation through an open and permanent dialogue. The FAO-Sika agreement, according to the release, serves as a model for regional cooperation and demonstrates the collective strength and commitment of the participating organizations to address the complex challenges facing the agricultural sector and the environment in the Sika region. Coming up next, consultation takes place in Orange Walk on the Belize Disabilities Bill. Stay tuned.
It's the return of the long-awaited Fiesta Rama, July 1st and 2nd at the People's Stadium. Come and enjoy 2 days of excitement and entertainment. On Saturday, come out for the all-day business expo starting at 9 a.m., followed by the Grand Pro FC Fight Night, with entertainment by Yachty Kid, Tiny Melodies and Daddy Flo, El Kangri, DJ Shans and DJ Kali. Then to close off Saturday night, some of soca's hottest artists live in concert. Artists like Freezy with hits like DJ Chin.
Shoulders, knees, and toes.
And straight out of Antigua, Mr. Vagabond himself, Ricardo Drew. Then on Sunday, the excitement continues with the Mud Show, the Motorcycle Show, and the Dog Show, with entertainment by DJ Shans and DJ Keon. Then dance the night away with Gil, Harry 7, and Super G. Hosted both days by comedian David Murray. Sponsored by the Orange Walk Town Council, the Belize Tourism Board, LED Belize, Quayos Distillery Limited, and Honorable Kevin Bernard. Fiesta Rama 2023. See you there.
If you're lucky, no matter what life hands you, you can always count on your closest friends to be there.
Oh, thank you. My purse was exhausted. We are all blissfully unaware when our lives are about to change.
Life is full of surprises.
I'm ready to lose my virginity.
Excuse me?
I got the list.
What list? There's a whole brouhaha at school about this MILF list.
For real?
Our lunchtime fodder is not usually this lowbrow, I swear.
Really? Who have you been eating with?
It's a big step up for Che and me.
I've been having exit out of grief sex. It's just sex.
The world has changed since you've been out there. Men have feelings too.
Life's too short not to try something new. And just like that, I realized some things are better left in the past. But maybe not everything.
Come on!
When hungry or craving, when laughter or tears, enjoy the best snacking or flavors are here. Asadas, bocadas, chiladas, doradas, delicious for snacking, done right and done here.
Done right, done here.
Tonight, as we speak, the Belize Assembly for Persons with Diverse Abilities, BAPTA, is hosting a meeting at the Crystal Palace Auditorium where discussion is being had on the current process being undertaken by the organization to pass the Belize Disabilities Bill. The bill seeks to protect Belizeans living with diverse abilities from discrimination, exploitation, abuse, and violence, as well as to provide equal opportunities in areas of education, healthcare, employment, transportation, among others. President of BAPTA, Kenrick Teos, appeared today in our morning show to share more about this process and what it seeks to achieve.
Consultations are being headed by the Human Development Department, and specifically because they have drafted or put together a Disabilities Act, a law. And that law has, before it goes to the House or wherever, it has to go to a committee. It also has to go to the public to get their input. So that's what we're there in Orange Rock, to get the input from the community there as to what are the stuff that they see that they want to be mandated by law. Under this law, certain things definitely become illegal, with penalties, for example, when it comes to discrimination against employment, even discrimination in the fact that, like, for example, you're trying to access a bus and because you're disabled, the bus just passes you every time, and you can prove this to be so, you have a case, basically, because a lot of the buses do that, even with disabled children, because they don't want to come out and help with a wheelchair, for example. And that is part of their service, and they're mandated to serve every citizen of this country. When it comes to any sort of discrimination, wherever that might be coming from, those will be mandated, and as such will carry penalties under law. And the law has been, the draft is available, and now we're doing the discussions, and then we'll formalize those by collecting all the information we can from everybody across the country, and then afterwards we meet again in committee and try to get this hammered and then pass on to the minister and then on to the House.
Having signed on the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, Theo says it is high time that Belize takes action to enforce fair treatment for persons with disabilities in our country.
Belize signed on to the what is known as the CRPD, the Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, in 2011, and we have done absolutely nothing since then. We are now just beginning to put focus on disabled persons and the persons with disabilities in Belize, and as such, then it has to be mandated by law. For example, access to public transportation. I know that Florida bus, they do the priority seating on their buses. The other buses would be nice to follow suit, so that they can also have injured persons or disabled persons, even pregnant women, have priority seatings on their bus. It might look like a small and simple thing. Right. Everywhere we travel, we see it, but it just doesn't happen here for some reason. Anything that has to do with access, and when I say access, I mean access to a building. For example, government buildings should all have ramps attached to them so that you can access their services. The city councils, for example, should have ramps attached so you can access their service. If they exclude you from accessing their property, it means that, in essence, they're not prepared to do business with you. But that also means that I have a house, I pay tax, I pay land tax, I pay everything else known to man, and I don't have access. Commercial buildings, for example, are being built in this day and age without a ramp, without access, but then they're open for business. That should be illegal. I don't know if there's a law mandating that they have to have a ramp, but the thing is that in this disability bill, it will make it so that buildings would have to be retrofitted to have, if they're commercial buildings or government buildings, to have a ramp. That's important. Also, too, for public transportation, there'll be some stuff enacted there where persons with disabilities will be able to access public transportation with the aid of those people who work on the bus. They cannot discriminate against you and say, well, you're in a wheelchair or you're old, and then you get trampled trying to get onto the bus. That has to stop. It has to stop. This is 2023, and we're still doing this as if it's reacting from the 1920s.
The bill, according to Teos, also seeks to ensure that Belize is brought up to speed with the rest of the region in areas of education, health, and employment.
The bill itself, let me just step outside of Belize for a minute. If you go to a place like Jamaica, for example, they're mandated that X amount of a percent, I think it's like 2 or 3% of their people, of their workforce, must, that you employ, would have to be disabled persons. I'm not sure if we can mandate that at this point in time, but what we can do is to make sure, for example, that there's no discrimination once a person is employed. Also, too, government can add incentives to companies that employ persons with disabilities. Let's say you want to set up a call center in Belize then, and all the persons be working from home. There's no reason why a person with a disability in a wheelchair with some sound set of skills set and education and can speak eloquently cannot do that from home. That person should not be discriminated against so that they are not hired simply because of the fact that they're in a wheelchair, and the company doesn't want to be bothered with all the stuff that goes on with that because they don't want to put in a ramp, they don't want to put in a... So incentives need to be there for those companies that do so, and that is provided within the bill. What those incentives are, those will have to be hammered out.
If you or someone you know is living with a disability and are interested in learning more about the consultation process for the Belize Disabilities Bill, you still have time to make it out to the Crystal Palace to join in the talks with the Belize Assembly for Persons with Diverse Abilities. Signs of unrest became increasingly apparent within the Department of Transport after concerns surrounding issues of departmental shortages, procurement of supplies, and breach of established financial procedures arose some weeks ago. The most recent example came in the form of a leaked June 9 letter from the newly appointed CEO Adel Katsim Sanchez to the Chief Transport Officer Diane Vasquez. In her correspondence, Sanchez queries a payment made to the sign factory on June 1st, 2023, amounting to a hefty sum of $108,800 for license plates. Raising pertinent questions about adherence to financial regulations, Sanchez asked what procurement practices were utilized as it relates to compliance with the financial orders, store orders, and if the pertinent request for local purchase approval was submitted as stipulated. In an effort to ensure transparency and proper compliance with procurement regulations, Sanchez requested that Vasquez provide a copy of the approval obtained for the procurement of these license plates for the Transport Department and gave her a deadline to respond. Today, CEO Katsim was pressed by the media on the matter.
The letter really didn't implicate anything. I think that, people may have misread the intention of the letter. The letter was simply to ask for documentation for a payment. But there was a process that was in place even before I went that allowed for the payments to be made, right? It was just for me, since I'm new, to ask for the paperwork so that I can be assured that everything followed due process. So the paperwork was there because there was an urgency, a real serious urgency in making sure that we serve the public with the license plates and with the stickers, right? And so when there's an urgency, there's different procurement practices that are applied. And so we did follow the protocols to be able to make sure that we could draw down on the funds which were already approved by the government. They were already approved. We drew down on the funds, and I was just simply asking for the information so that I can have it for documentation purposes, but there's no implication that anything untoward or different actually was occurring within the ministry.
The CEO clarified today that the documentation has been provided to back up the amount of money spent. Today, mayors from across the country, including the mayor of Orange Walk, Ladrick Shepherd, and key administrative staff from town and city councils across Belize, including the chairperson of the Key Corker Village Council, participated in a one-day consultation session with the Department of Local Government on a proposed initiative to expand the establishment of municipal magistrate courts. The consultation session provided a platform for local authorities to gain an understanding of the legal and administrative dynamics of the Belize City Municipal Magistrate Courts management and operations. The Department of Local Government noted that the session will additionally assist participants in understanding the legal and administrative processes and procedures for establishing magistrate court places of sitting, as well as articulate their concerns and considerations for the establishment of municipal magistrate courts in other jurisdictions. The advancement of the Municipal Magistrate Court initiative constitutes a component of the ministry's intent to strengthen local governance and the institutional capacity of town and city, and it is thus aligned with the government's medium-term development strategy to facilitate the economic transformation of urban communities throughout Belize. The achievement of sustainable financing for municipal governments is a fundamental strategic objective of the Department of Local Government as expressed in the ministry's strategic plan. Town and city councils are entrusted with increasing citizen compliance and improving residents' safety and security as part of their duty to improve municipal service delivery, the department noted. Currently, only Belize City has a declared place of sitting for a municipal magistrate court, which was established in 1997. As a result, the establishment of municipal magistrate courts will greatly improve the capacity of town and city councils to resolve matters related to local offenses such as breaches of traffic management laws and regulations, property tax matters, garbage and littering offenses, amongst others. During the session, Attorney General Magali Marinyong, along with other key staff of her ministry, addressed the municipal councils. Court manager for the Belize City Council, Jermaine Hyde, also presented during the consultation session. The Department of Local Government says that it will be holding consultation sessions with other relevant stakeholders. Last week, the nation celebrated public officers and their hard work by honoring Public Service Week. This week, the recognition continued at least for transport officers who were publicly recognized today by the Ministry of Transport, Youth and Sport.
The Department of Transport is honoring public officers who have worked with the department for over 10 years and 15 years. So it's actually a celebration to commemorate all the contribution that they've made to the public service and the people of Belize over these years. We have several officers who received awards today. This is very important because it helps to build morale within the public service and particularly within the Department of Transport. The work that these officers do day in and day out is not an easy job. They are law enforcement officers for the most part. They also play a role in helping to ensure that there's road safety. And then they also serve people at the terminals when they come in. So there's also service delivery and customer service that is important to the public. When people are able to move safely from one point to the other point to get to work on time, people, when that happens on a regular basis, people don't realize that there's a lot that goes into making sure that people can move around the country for economic reasons, for many other reasons, for recreation, for tourism. Our officers make sure that there's the safety, and they make sure that people, when they go to the terminals, have a good experience.
The Deputy Chief Transport Officer also commented on the awards bestowed to his colleagues.
Too often we have public officers who they work tirelessly to provide exceptional service to members of the public and to be able to sustain their families, and that goes unrecognized. These officers are often out in the rain, they're out during the storms, whenever we have any natural disaster, and so they always give of themselves. And so this is just a small token of appreciation to these members of our staff.
And does this cater to only transport officers or everybody who works on the department?
Yeah, so this award ceremony was inclusive. It included traffic wardens, the clerks at the office, the senior transport officers, the terminal securities. So it included all members of staff from the Department of Transport.
Throughout the country?
Throughout the country, yes, correct.
The celebration took place at the Belize Police Academy in Belmopan. And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Wednesday, June 28th here on CTV3 and Fiesta FM 106.7. Remember that to read a text version of the news, you can visit our website at ctv3belizenews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at facebook.com/ctv3belizenews or our YouTube channel at CTV3 News BZ. Remember to wash your hands and remain safe. From all of us here at CTV3 News, thank you for watching and listening. Good night.